side hustle to replace your income. This is for Black women in toxic jobs. So if you're in a toxic job right now and you really want to go, but the thing that is really, really, really keeping you there are your concerns about money, how you're going to pay your bills, all that kind of stuff. Maybe creating a side hustle might be an option for you to start replacing your income so you're able to eventually pivot out of that toxic job. So if you want to learn how you can have a side hustle that can help you to replace your income, stay tuned to this video. If you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, a toxic job survivor, and more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. And I am co-hosting the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women with Marissa Price, May 18th and 19th. If you have not already gotten your ticket, get your ticket. Patrice Lindo is one of our speakers, one of our powerhouse speakers that we have, all Black women who have left jobs and they are doing well, and they are coming to support and teach Black women about the how to. How do you liberate yourself from a toxic job and replace your income? So Patrice is going to talk to us today about one of those options, which is a side hustle, and my YouTube channel. Oh, and I want to say thank you to everyone. So I've reached 5,000 subscribers a couple of days ago. So I'm so happy about that. And I did a really short video just thanking everyone for that. I'm in amazement that I got here. So if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so. And please give this video a thumbs up because it's going to be good. Okay. So Patrice, I'm going to turn it over to you for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kamani. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to not only talk to you tonight, but also to join the virtual summit on the 18th and 19th. My name is Patrice Lindo, as you said, Patrice Williams Lindo, and I have been in, I'm going to say, consulting of all different variations for the last 20 years. And I am really excited about talking with everyone tonight because, you know, sometimes the answer is right here, but it's so close that we can't see it. So I'm excited to talk with you and to talk with your audience because the answer exists within us, right? Sometimes, though, we can't see the forest for the trees. So I'm excited to talk with you guys because that's what I love doing. That's what I do in my own side hustle.
Yes, and as Black women that we are resourceful.
Yes.
So even if you're in a situation where you're in a toxic job and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, we are sharing resources for you so you can prepare yourself to get ready to go. So Patrice, as we're kicking this off, can you share with the audience what led you to create your own side hustle? What was that process?
Absolutely. So I will tell you, I was in a toxic job at the time. And by toxic, I mean, it wasn't overt. It was subtle because a lot of times, at least my experience in toxic jobs, I think others may have similar experiences. It's what we would call today microaggressions. And it's not necessarily racial. It's ones that, you know, check your, I'm going to say your expertise, or one that, you know, they give you this crazy moving target of what you need to hit to be able to progress in a job. But I was working in a role at an organization. At the time, it had almost 400,000 people. So it was a huge organization. And it was in consulting. And the work that I did, I absolutely loved it. It was leadership development. You know, we got to create a lot of good content for our fellow consultants to go out and support big organizations, whether it was, you know, design thinking or team leading or leadership, you know, that sort of thing. I love the work because innately I'm a teacher, right? I love to be able to take complex things and chunk them into small, I'm going to say bite-sized pieces for people to be able to not only learn, but as they would say, pick up what I was putting down and have a sense of accomplishment while they were doing it. Love the work. Well, in this role, clients loved me, my colleagues loved me, but my direct supervisor, who at the time was also my career counselor, bad move, decided that no one would be perfect. Like if the score was like a 1 through 5 for performance, she was like, nobody's perfect. Everybody always has room to grow. Like she doesn't give 5s out, and 4s come at the rate of a 5. And so initially I was like, you know what?
Bad sign, red flag.
Right. But I was like, let me just, you know, work on her. You know, I can win her. I can prove, right, that I'm doing the right thing. So I started new initiatives. You know, I was able to onboard people when they came in. I mean, I'm talking about picking up +1 to +10 type things to prove myself. And After I got that feedback from her in our first performance period, I made sure that I was having like routine check-ins. I'm following the guidelines, routine check-ins. Is there anything I'm missing? Are you seeing that we're making this progress? Are you seeing how the team is growing? So it's not just me, I'm bringing the team along, that sort of thing. Yes, 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 yes. We got to the next performance period and she goes, well, you know what? Everybody's rock stars. So it's like you're trying to have the cure for cancer or the cure for AIDS. So all of you guys are great and nobody's getting a 5. And I was like,
what?
I wanted to pick my purse up, no lie, Dr. Cavani, and be like, forget y'all. But
Right.
I had 3 kids in school.
I'm done with this. Right.
And I was like, I can't afford to do this. I got to think, big picture. And so that's what made me get resourceful, because I was like, okay, you can't leave, but you can't stay like this. So what is this going to look like?
And you know what? It's so important for us to really highlight, because I think a lot of Black women can relate to this, is we try even harder.
Yes.
So we make it, we're like, okay, so if it's not that, then it must be this. And then we work really hard. And then, like you said, the guidepost, it's a moving target. So you never know what you're doing right. And, it's so interesting. I was just interviewed by Rick and Halisi on Our Black Utopia. And Rick was talking about the same thing you're talking about. Not even Jesus will get a 5.
See? Yes.
Right?
Yes,
so it's impossible to even get a 5.
Completely. It was ridiculous. And I just thought, okay, you know what? My family's Jamaican, and my grandmother say, when your hand's in a tiger's mouth, you take your time pulling it back, right? You can't just snatch it back, because if you do, you're going to get bitten, right? So I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to figure out a way around it. So my way around it was, okay, I'm going to find another job at this firm. That's a huge firm. And I'm going to get out from under this lady. Well, I tried to do that, and that didn't work, right? I tried for about maybe 2 months, and I was like, you know what? It's okay. Maybe rejection is protection. I'm going to expand what I'm doing to making sure my LinkedIn is tight, making sure my resume is together, and just kind of casually looking, because at that point, it had never really entered my mind to leave the organization. I was just thinking, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to find someplace else to go. I don't want to have to start all over again at a completely new firm. Well, the divine had other plans, because I literally, like, let's say on a Sunday night, usually when I make my updates, like Monday morning, I get a ping, a DM on LinkedIn from a recruiter, from a competitor saying, hey,
what?
We would love to talk to you. I mean, sometimes you just got to say yes to those little nudges, right? Because
you got to be open to the universe.
I got no responses when I was looking within the company. But sometimes when it's time for you to move, you have to really be listening and follow those instructions, follow those actions. And so said, so done. I literally was out of that firm within, I want to say 3 weeks exactly.
What?
So much so that the supervisor, that same manager, came to me and she goes, hey, you're leaving really fast. Was it something I said? And I was like, no, look, because I don't want y'all playing with my check, and I don't want you to get cute, And I'm like, no, everything's fine. But trust and believe, we have crossed paths again. And I mean, she sees the work that I'm doing, and I tell this story. She's never said anything to me about it, but it's definitely, that was the motivation. And what I did was I took the process of like how I got my LinkedIn together, how I prepped for the interview, how I built that relationship with the recruiter, and keeping things in that way. And I was able to rinse and repeat that 3 times, like 3 different firms, and got recruited. Like I also learned, like if you got recruited as opposed to applying, you have more leverage, and you have more buying power. Now this was probably about now 8 years ago, but I didn't realize that was unbeknownst to me. Like I was like everybody else, sending in my resume, trying to get a job, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, so I can change the table stakes? Okay, let's see how this goes. And that was how Career Nomad was born.
Isn't that something? Okay.
Yes.
So you put yourself out. Okay, wait. Let's trace the whole pattern.
Yes.
So this happened with the supervisor.
Yes.
You were trying to do everything to try to please her, trying to get that top evaluation, right?
Correct.
She wanted to do really well. Nothing you did was going to matter, because she was dead set on not giving that to anybody, right? Then you were like, okay, well, maybe I need to start maybe transferring to a different part of the company. I think a lot of Black women do this too, right?
That's right.
So how do I get away from this person and go somewhere else in the company? Because I like the company, I like the work, right?
Right.
Did that. Nothing worked. Like, okay.
Yes.
So then you're kind of like, okay, maybe I need to do, right? And just as you were doing those things,
literally, it was like taking candy from a baby, literally. And that was what opened my eyes, because literally I was like, okay, wait a minute. So if I can do this, I don't know if other people do this, because remember, I'm a Gen Xer, right? I'll be
Mm-hmm.
52 in October. And
Mm-hmm.
so you get on the job, you stay on the job, you don't leave your
Right.
good job type thing. But that was when I began literally job hopping, but job hopping in the sense that I changed firms then. Then 9 months later, another firm recruited me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go, because my bag was getting increased. It was a sign on bonus. It was the same type of work, but at a different firm. And the same thing happened again 12 months later. And this was
Wow.
unheard of, right? Because people would say, no, you look unstable. Why are you jumping from company to company? And so then I began to tell the truth. I said, for money, for money.
Oh.
I was like,
Oh.
I have goals I'm trying to meet, right? Because people will say like have seven streams of income, blah blah. I said, well,
Mm.
I don't have seven, but I can figure out two. I'm gonna get
Uh-huh.
this job. I'm gonna run up my bag a little bit, and I'm gonna teach other people how to do this, because it's not at least within our community, it was very frowned upon. Why are you
Yeah.
changing jobs so often? I was like, no,
Mm-hmm.
I'm staying within consulting, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going from this company to the next company, next company. I said, and I was invited because they recruited me
Mm.
there. So how
Right.
can you make yourself memorable, inviteable, so that you are attractive even in times like this? I still have
Mm.
recruiters in my DM today. Today.
Wow. That is
Today.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And
Yeah.
it's so amazing because number one, to know that you're able to leave a job and go to another job. Because I think a lot of Black women are like fearful. If I leave
Yes.
this job, I won't have another job and I'm gonna end up
Yes.
homeless and all that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like,
Mm-hmm.
no, no, no. They'll come looking for you.
Will.
Let's just figure out how that needs to happen. But the other thing is saying and being clear about what your goals are, and
Yes.
you're going to where, like, show me the money, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're
Exactly.
going
I'm like,
to
if I'm gonna
what's
do
the
this
line?
work anyway, please pay me, because we were probably never getting the right money to begin with. Let's just start there.
Let's start
So,
there. Let's start there, right?
you know,
And Patrice, you pointed out something really good. 'Cause I'm Gen X too. So Gen X, we were raised a certain way, right? You
yes,
get the job,
yes,
you stay there, it's a good job, blah, 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 right?
yes.
And then you have our parents who are the
Mm-hmm.
baby boomers
Mm-hmm.
who were like, what? Like, you better
Yes.
not leave that job. What are you doing? That's a
Yes.
good job, right? So you're dealing with all of that, right?
Yes. The
But then if
noise.
you look at the younger generations,
Yes.
they're jumping all the time. They're like,
Listen,
this don't work for me, or this job is stressing me out, or
and we'll be
like,
gone.
girl, be
We'll
gone
be
in a second,
gone.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So how
Mm-hmm.
do we take little elements of it, right? So we want to have
Yes.
that security. So
Yes.
you're talking about ways that you were able to pivot, but you were very strategic, right? You
Was.
didn't just up and jump up and like, oh,
No.
okay, I'm out of here, right?
I thought about
So
it though. I got mad enough. Oh,
right.
I was
And I
like, wait
think,
a minute. Is this the moment? Is this the moment? I was like, no, this ain't it. This is not it.
yeah,
Because I don't have an answer. I don't have a
girl,
parachute.
girl, so many moments I want to just say some foul words to some
Unsavory
people,
things.
right? Forget I was a professional, right?
Yes.
But I
Yes.
was like, I'm a professional. I'm not going to do that, right? But the part about being strategic and getting your act together. So
Mm-hmm.
that leads to my next question. So for Black women, again, feeling stuck and oh
Yeah.
my God, I don't know how to get out, blah blah. In what ways can a side hustle help Black women starting to replace their income as they're transitioning out of a job? How can that help them?
Oh my goodness. Well, number one, I'm going to speak from my experience. It was so liberating. I did not go and learn anything new. I used what I had. And when I say
Mm,
what I had, the skills that I sell, because you're literally selling your skills every day to your employer.
true that, true
So
that.
instead of selling them just to my employer, I was like, well, how can I remix these same skills or pick the parts out of it that I like and
Mm-hmm.
package that? Is there a need for that in the
Mm-hmm.
world? Is there a need
Mm-hmm.
for that in the job force? Is there a need for that in our community? Whatever your target audience is, how can you take what you already have, as you mentioned, being resourceful, and
Mm-hmm.
literally sell those same services? And by same services, I mean, for example, as a consultant, I will do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of training and
Mm-hmm.
facilitation, or
Mm-hmm.
I'll develop content for different classes they'll have, or I'll offer, executive coaching and that sort of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
how can I take the skills, those skills from those key areas, and
Mm-hmm.
repackage them in the world? So the first thing I did was like resume writing, cover letters, how to interview, how to negotiate, how to literally talk yourself into the next role you're going to by sharing the impact that you can have. So much
Oh.
so that the last job that I was recruited to, they were like, hey, we've been following your journey. We like the work that you're doing. We realize that you have been at some of the top firms, including the big four, and we're looking for a tastemaker like you to come in and do change management work. So what are the
Wow.
things that you really like to do? And with those experiences, are you really sitting in the fact that you self-validated? So you remember
Mm,
that whole, like, you don't want to hear the noise of like people saying you're changing your job too often, or
mhm,
the noise of someone that's holding you back on the job. When you
mhm.
go out and you make yourself, I'm going to say, appealing, and you're able to literally exchange money for the things you know how to do that's not dependent on that job, you're like, oh, wait a minute, y'all can't tell me, because
Ooh,
I have
you
other
talking about taking your
options.
power back.
Yes, I have other options. And I know for me, I think I forgot that. I think I was so happy to be picked, in the role that I was in. I was like, well, just be happy with that. But I was like, no, there's more out there. There's more that I want to go after. There's more that I
Mhm,
need to go after, right? For the
mhm,
role that
mhm.
I'm in as a mom, as a wife, as a co-breadwinner. I just knew that there were certain marks that I wanted to hit, certain goals that I had. Now, trust me, we still have not gone to Paris yet. I got to get all the kids out of college. We don't have a
But you're
Maserati.
on your way. You're on your way, girl.
Listen, baby, we are so close. But it was so, and I would be doing less than justice to my own mother, because I saw
Mhm.
my mother do this. My mother
Mm,
was a nurse. She had been a registered nurse for several years.
mhm.
And when we were in high school, she started the first Black registered nurses agency in Atlanta. In
Wow.
Atlanta. And I was like, it was small. It was small. Nobody else, everybody else did not look like us that she saw doing it. And she started working for them. And she was like, I can figure this out. Now,
What a
there's no example,
visionary.
right? There's no
Yes.
example, but she's like, I'm gonna figure this out. So Sunday nights, like now, she would have made dinner and she was out there, writing out her standard operating procedures. She's trying to figure out how to make payroll that week. She's trying to figure out who's gonna go marketing. But she literally took those core nursing skills. She saw there was a gap in the market, because especially since there wasn't representation, she knew she could pull in a target audience of Black, West Indian, Caribbean women that were like, because they was hustling, right? They was hustling and they were at the job. So one person tell another. And that was how literally that was born. So I always have to harken back to that example
Wow. What
of
an
how
excellent
I can
model.
use exactly, right, what I have to be able to grow that. So that's what I
Yeah.
did. And so that's what I really, really know that people can get out of that sense of validation.
Mhm.
The what can hinder you though is that, well, who am I going to ask if I have a question, or what
Mm,
example do I have to follow? And
mm.
you have to be willing to take a chance on yourself. And then I reminded myself, but you took a chance on yourself when you got this job. You took a chance on yourself when you got your degree. You took a chance on yourself when you said I do to the person that you
Yes.
love.
Check the data. Check the
Yes,
data. Yes.
exactly,
If
exactly.
you've been
And
able
you
to do
don't
something in the
remember
past,
that.
why can't you do it again?
Yes, 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 yes.
Mhm,
So I
mhm,
hope that
mhm.
answers the question.
It does. I mean, it brought up another question actually, because I heard you say some reference to you forgot your worth in some ways,
Yes, yes,
right? Can
yes.
you speak a little bit about that? Because that was the same for me. I stayed at the toxic job,
Yeah,
scared. Oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going
yes,
to make money? And I
yeah.
was like, wait a minute, what? Did you not come into this job as a licensed clinical
That's
psychologist
right. That's
with
right.
experience?
That's
So what
right.
makes you think that you can't get another job?
That's right.
Girl, but
Yeah,
all in my head, they had
yeah.
me thinking that way, right?
Yes, yes,
Can
yes,
you
yes.
talk about forgetting your worth and
Yes,
how
yes.
to reconnect to that?
Well, I think what happens is two things came to my mind when you said that, two sayings. When you sit and poop long enough, it doesn't smell.
Ooh,
And the second
ooh.
one is, this concept of like the boiling frog. So you're in
Yes.
water, right? And the
Mhm,
temperature is going up and going up and going up until you realize, like, right? And so that's
mhm.
what happens, because again, we have overcome so many things to get the
Yeah,
roles that we have, that it's
yeah.
just like, stick to the evil that you know. Well, that's a
Oh, the
problem with
devil you
that,
know. Yep. Mhm.
right?
I'm always like,
Or
I want to know
a
no
bird in
devils.
the hand
No.
is worth more than blah blah blah.
Mm-mm.
But those were protective, and I'm not throwing them out. I'm
Mhm.
just saying
Survival.
we are not there today. Today
Right.
we're in a different place. I just read something last night that said, like, who remembers that in, like, was it 1960s? I can't remember the date, but it was in the night.
Mhm,
It was in our, not too far from when we were born. You had
mhm.
to have your husband or dad vouch for
Oh,
you
yeah, yeah, yeah,
to
yeah,
get
to
a
get a credit
checking account.
card or a loan, yeah.
I was like, say what now? What happened? What happened?
Right.
I mean, so, it's in that's I don't want to necessarily say we forget, right? I don't think we forget. I think we've been socialized to be like, hey, don't rock the boat. Get in there,
Right.
row, row, row. Sometimes you got to take the bitter with the sweet, blah, blah, blah. But
Mm-hmm.
what I'm here to do is remind people, okay, you did that for this season, but what's your next season?
Mm.
If there is any part of this role that dims your light, if there's any part of this road that drains you, if Sunday nights are filled with anxiety because you can't go to work,
And dread.
if you are, not wanting to be on Zoom, and you don't have to be, but not want to be on Zoom because you're trying to do anything but be at that job,
Mm.
then these are the things that you use to spur you along. So like in my
Mm-hmm.
case, I was getting that pushback from that manager and that gaslighting, I'm really going to call
Mm-hmm.
it, from that
Mm-hmm.
manager. But
Mm-hmm.
I also looked at my 3 babies. Right.
Mm.
I'm also thinking about that health insurance. Right. I'm also thinking about those regular checks and those things that are
Oh,
supposed to be.
yes,
So
absolutely. The
I'm
money and
trying
the
to,
health insurance. And ladies, we're going to address that during the virtual summit too. So don't, we're going to address that. Yes.
I'm trying to make a good decision and not, go off half crazy and really tell these people about their parts. And so in trying to, and at that time I was a lot younger. So, look, Spicy Patrice, like about 10 years ago, was going to give you the business because, like, I'm an oldest girl. And so I'm a rule follower, right? Until one
Mm.
day I was like, F them rules. Excuse me, I don't want to
Mm.
curse. But I was like,
No.
and that happened in a lot of spaces, right?
Mm-hmm.
It didn't just
Mm-hmm.
happen on the job. It
Mm-hmm.
happened personally. It happened in my relationships. Like a lot of things that were really draining me. One
Mm-hmm.
by one, I
Mm-hmm.
began throwing them things out. And so
Girl.
the job was one of like the big, because you have small things and big things. So the job was the
Mm-hmm.
big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so was my marriage. So was the relationship I wanted to have with my daughters. So
Mm.
was the way that I wanted to operate in the world. So I
Mm-hmm.
took that and I was like, okay, so what can I do with this without throwing out, the baby with the bathwater? And
Right.
that was how I remembered. Like, well, wait a minute. Even if you don't know what to do, if you're going to show up for this opportunity, then the resources or the people or the answer is going to show up. Lean
Mm-hmm.
into the things that you know exist, right? Lean
Mm-hmm.
into the things that you don't know and
Mm-hmm.
literally be intentional about getting those answers. It will come to you literally, whether in thought, word, or deed, or body, or a person
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
say, this is how you can do X, Y, Z. That has
Yeah.
been my experience.
Yeah, and I think it gets to a certain point in our lives where we're thinking or reflecting on our lives, and we think, "Is this the life I want for myself?"
That's right.
Right?
That's
And
right.
it's like, okay, if this is not the life I want for myself, what needs to change? And I
Mm-hmm.
know for me,
Mm-hmm.
like during the panorama with this whole thing that's going on, I was like, "Whoa, hold up."
Right. Right.
This is not the life I want for myself at this place. Let these people
Yes.
treat me like this. So
Yes.
you started making some pivots. So can you talk about what are some of the ways that you help Black women create their side hustles? How do you help them with that?
So the very first thing I do, because in so many spaces we are ignored, I acknowledge them. The first thing we do is we have a real conversation. Tell me about you, tell me about the work you do, and tell me
Mm-hmm.
about the work you love, if even
Mm-hmm.
if they are two different things. So if you
Mm.
are, some executive, doing, tech work, but you love cooking, let's talk about cooking. Or
Mm.
if you are, in teaching right now and those kids are driving you crazy, but you love, to see them learn, let's talk about it. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
first thing, is that I acknowledge them, because what I'm finding, and I'm sure all of us have had this experience, there's so many places that what we say is dismissed, or there's so many spaces that we don't have the space to say, I'm not sure. Oh my goodness, saying I don't know was a curse word in my parents' house growing up. What you mean you
Oh,
don't know? You should
oh,
have an idea. Da, 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 da,
oh.
da, da. So because of that, I give them the space to say, I don't even know, because a lot of times we are so full. We are so full, whether it's our family responsibilities, our responsibilities with our parents,
Mm-hmm.
not even being able to give ourselves the space to think about what
Yes.
they would like to do. And you see it in things like, people say, what would you like to do? And they say something like sleep.
Mm.
Right? Because they're just so tired, and it's not just
Mm.
physically tired, they're just overwhelmed with life, and you got to show up in the other spaces. So the first thing to get cut is you. So the first
Yeah.
thing I do is open that space up back to themselves,
Mm.
and it starts with a
Mm.
conversation. In that conversation,
Wait,
we
can I say
talk.
something right quick? Can I say something right quick?
Yes.
That is so healing, just right there. Because
Yes.
as Black women, we're juggling all these different things. We're
Mm-hmm.
masking at work. we're taking care of everybody else, and
Yes.
we lose ourselves. And so, like you
Yes.
just said, we become physically and emotionally drained. So we
Mm-hmm.
have some time, like, I just want to just rest because I'm just exhausted. And the
Mm-hmm.
other part that I really want to highlight is that you said that you want to talk to Black women about what is it that you're doing, but what do you dream of doing?
Yes.
Because many times there's a disconnect, and many times at a job, a toxic job particularly, it
Yes.
will suck everything out of you, your dreams,
Yeah.
everything that you don't even know what you really want to do. So
Yes.
that's powerful what you're
Oh my
doing. So,
goodness.
I
And
just wanted
need
to say
it.
that.
And
It's
need it,
so needed.
need it, because there's so many spaces, and I'm talking about places they need to see you. I'm talking about the doctor's office. I'm talking about if
Hmm.
you've hired an attorney. I'm talking about your HR, well, HR is not really working for you, but I'm just saying on the
You
job.
got that right.
So many spaces that you need somebody to really look you eyeball to eyeball, and they're not listening to you. That's one of the
Hmm.
first things that I do, right? That's a really
Hmm.
important step. And in
Hmm.
doing so, you would be so amazed at the conversations that we had. And a lot of the women will say, well, when I was a little girl, for example, I wanted to be a doctor. But
Oh.
they're like in tech, right? Or they're a
Hmm.
lawyer, or they're like completely different somewhere along
Hmm.
the line. And they're fine, meaning
Hmm.
it's not like they are not able to sustain themselves, but they are
Mhm.
unfulfilled. So yes, they are
Mm,
getting, decent jobs. And yes,
mm,
they're treading water, but that's it.
mm,
Treading
mm,
water, right? And
mm.
so when we get into the tell me what is it about little, if it was Patrice, what is it about little Patrice that wanted to be a doctor? Well, I like to see people succeed. I like to see people learn. I like to like show them like, so this is how you do it. I mean, and
Mhm,
it's really it sounds simplistic, but
mhm,
it's not, because that's
mhm,
when I can hear the unlock of,
mm,
oh, even though Patrice has tech skills, she wants
mhm,
to be a doctor, she wants to create impact. How can we
mhm,
marry those two things? Because we're not throwing out
mm,
the tech, right? We're
mhm,
using
mhm,
everything. We are using
mhm,
everything. So is it the
mhm,
analytics? Is it the relationship she has? Is it the firms that she's worked at? Is there a way that we can take the puzzle pieces from what they do and what they love and reimagine them into what they would love to do? Because that's what I
and
think.
make money with that,
Listen,
right? Yes,
listen. I'm the
yes.
first customer that did that because, for example, I love teaching and I loved medicine. And I was like, well, okay, I'm going to go. Well, 3 times I'm taking organic chemistry with an F later. I don't think I'm going to medical school. But guess what? I also didn't know, Dr. Kimani, there are
Mm,
different types of doctors. Hello. Doctor is not just medicine, right? There's a doctor of theology, there's psychiatry, there's a lot of different options, but you only know what you know. And so
mhm,
what I help them to do is, well, what don't we know? Is
mm,
there a way that we can get to that purple unicorn? Because that purple unicorn
mm,
isn't as purple unicorny as you think.
mm,
Sometimes it takes talking to someone else that you really get into I'm going to call it a thought partnership, where
mhm,
you can literally say, this is what I dream and this
mhm,
is what I got. And I
mhm,
help them pave their way to get there. And it doesn't mean they'll be there tomorrow, but it means
mhm.
that there is a tomorrow where it's
Yeah,
coming. There
yeah.
is a way that they can taste it along the way to be like, yep, this is what I want. Or even, no, I thought this is what I want, but I'm pivoting to this way. That's how I got into consulting. I used to teach.
Mm,
I used to sell real estate. We've had our own business. Like I've been in healthcare. I've done those things. But I found that consulting was a good marriage of all of those things because I'm
mm,
teaching, because I'm coaching people, because I'm
mhm,
selling work. And that's my nine
mhm.
to five. So let your 9 to 5 feed your 5 to 9. And that's what I
Ooh.
teach them how to do.
Yes. Can you elaborate on that? Your 9 to 5.
Feed your
Can you
5 to
can you
9.
speak more on that?
Yes, yes, yes. So for example, there are times that, and I'll use myself to protect, the people that I'm working with
Mhm,
privacy. There are
mhm,
times that, for example, I'm negotiating with a client that
mhm,
is going to get, let's say, new software implemented, right, for
mhm,
their HR
mhm,
team. And
mhm,
in that, the change, right, there's a level of what they have to stop, start, and continue. And
mhm,
as they're doing that, it's not just, kids that you can say, listen, just do what I said, don't ask me anything. Though you have to pull the different levers of human psychology and behavior to be able to get that done in a timely manner. Well,
mhm,
that's the same thing that I have to do with my clients, right? Because my clients, even though they say they want to leave this job or pivot
mhm,
and start their own business,
mhm,
they will think they want to do that, but as we start to do the work, they're like, well, wait, like this is unfamiliar, this is scary, let me just stay
Mm,
over here. Kind of
mm,
like how we do sometimes too long in bad relationships, for example, right?
mm,
Because it's
mm,
familiar. So
mhm,
how can I teach them to build their self-trust, just
mhm,
like I do with my client? Like, okay, so Mr. Client, you said you want to implement this new technology, but your team over here, we
mhm,
are going to implement this process to be able to get them aligned and get them onboarded. So it's not just plop the new software in, there's a
mhm,
human element to it. So in
mhm,
my
mhm,
case, for the 5 to 9, it's not just telling people what to do, it's again helping them through it and helping them avoid the pitfalls that they would, the traps, right, that they would fall into, like, oh, I can't bother, this is too hard, or how do I know this is going to work, or somebody else tried it and failed. Well, you didn't try it, you are your own
mm.
mold. And so that's
Oh,
the same thing that I do with my clients, right? My nine
mhm,
to five clients, because there's a lot of money riding on that, right? So,
mhm,
if I wasn't doing the job, they'd be like, get out of here, girl. But there's a human element of building that relationship, building that trust, being that advisor, that trusted
mhm,
advisor. And so I bring that into my 5 to 9. Again, developing that relationship where I'm that trusted advisor. And it's not that you know everything, but we talk through, like, what did you say? Check the data. What are the facts? You got
mhm,
this job, you have
mhm,
this degree, you have this
mhm,
experience. Here's
mhm,
another thing, unlocking the experience versus expertise, because a
mm,
lot of people's moxie is hanging on validation externally, right?
mhm,
So,
mhm.
like, for them to say, well, I'm not an expert, I just did it for 10 years. I said, well, if you not an expert after doing it for 10 years, then what are we talking about here?
Right,
Yeah, and they're
exactly.
like, well, nobody, I don't have a piece of paper. I said, no, you have hands-on
Mhm. You have
experience.
experience,
So
yeah.
it's kind of like how they question our good friend Amanda Seals on her autism diagnosis. They're like, well,
Mhm,
who told you? She's like, I told
hmm.
me, I did the research. Type thing, right?
Uh-huh.
And people don't even think of the external factors of, for example, in the autistic community, that's how you do it. That it starts
Mm,
with you identifying. So I teach them also that they can see themselves. Like, you
mm.
don't have to wait for somebody to knight you and say, oh, yep,
Ooh,
you're good.
right,
You're ready to go. So I said,
right.
you can say you're ready to go. I told them, for example, if you've been doing XYZ, I'm going to say, what was it? Malcolm Gladwell said 10,000 hours and you become an expert. I was like, you can say it's 1,000.
Oh, right.
Malcolm Gladwell's doing whatever. I said, you can say it's 1,000 for you doing your thing, with the openness that you're going to continue learning, with the
Mhm,
openness that you're not going to do any harm, with the
mhm,
openness that you're going to take people along your journey. So you will
mhm,
never get to the end of your journey, but you may be on step 10 and
mhm.
somebody may be on step 2. You can
Yeah.
help them get from 2 to 5 or from 2 to 8, that sort of
Mhm,
thing. And so then they start getting those wins. They start
mm,
learning, like, oh, so wait a minute, I can show up because I know a thing or two about this or that. And then they sit up a little straighter. They speak about themselves
mm,
differently. They present themselves differently. They talk about the impact and the results
mm,
that they've been a part of in generating, as opposed to, well, I'm not sure if I can do this, or I'm not sure if I can do that. And I'm like, no, you're actually doing it. And we write it down. It sounds very simple, but we write it down. So people learn differently, but I found a lot of people, until they see it in black and white, they're
mhm.
like, oh, it didn't happen. I'm like, no, so we writing it down. Oh, we won. Like, this was a
Yeah,
win. We're not
yeah,
going to scooch right over that. We're going to stop, and we appreciate small wins and big wins. So that's how
yeah.
I get.
And it's helpful to have somebody else see something within you and have a sense of confidence within you,
That's
because
right.
sometimes you can't see it for yourself. You're like, I don't see it. And if somebody else is like, I see it, girl, like
Yes.
you almost there, just do da 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 da,
Yes.
then you're like,
Yes.
oh, I can do it. So that's why it's important to have someone else working with you to
That's
support you
right.
through that journey. Now,
That's
you
right.
said something else, Patrice. You said an unfulfilled life. Can you talk about that? An unfulfilled life. What is that? I think a lot of Black women can relate to that.
So I'm going to take it back to being a doctor. Little Patrice wanted to be a doctor for those reasons. And as I thought about it, I was like, well, I ain't going to med school, what all the reasons are, right?
Mhm,
And then I thought to myself, but wait a minute. Do you want to do the work? Do you want the title? Like, what is it about being? I had to literally interrogate my own motivations,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
And
mhm,
then I was like, oh, because being a doctor comes with like certain license or certain, accolades or certain
mm,
recognition. And I was like,
mhm,
but is that what you care about, or the impact
Mm.
And so then I started to think about the impact. And that was where I began to find fulfillment. So, for
Mm.
example, when I found that I can literally keep my own personal professional tools sharp in my 9 to 5, and then I can actually implement them in my 5 to 9, that's the beginning of the fulfillment, because that's the impact I'm talking about. That's
Mhm.
the people that I want to work with. That's the
Mhm.
teaching that I love, right? So,
Mhm.
yes, I don't have Dr. So and so, Patrice Lindo. I said, but the end result is that I've still been able to achieve those things. So that's what I
Mhm.
help people to do. So one of my clients right now is working in a role at an amazing pharmaceutical firm, but her
Mhm.
team is horrible. And as
Mm.
she's working through it, she's like, I'm not sure I want to. She's like, I'll go work at Publix. I was like, no, you will not
Mm.
work at
Mm.
Publix. We're finna get you another job. But finna. Like
Mm.
I had to talk to her like I was like, we're finna get you another job. I was like, because you have these set of hot skills. I was like, we
Mhm.
are not even post-pandemic that they're calling post-pandemic, and they need you somewhere else if
Mhm.
this company
Mhm.
cannot appreciate you. And so it
Mhm.
literally started with having that conversation. What is it that she's looking for in a role? What are the things that light her up? And it's a marriage of those business skills, a marriage of those scientific skills, but
Mhm.
also in those people, human centered skills. And what does
Mhm.
that look like, for example? That could be teaching, right? While she's
Mhm.
doing that work. That could
Mhm.
be, giving back to her community,
I like that.
whether it's, helping, high school students to learn how to do XYZ so they can get into a good college and work as
Mhm.
an intern,
Mhm.
for example. There's a
Mhm.
lot of ways that you can remix it, and like you said, and get paid. Because
Yeah.
while it's amazing to give back, we have needs, we have responsibilities. There are things beyond even that we need to do.
Yeah.
And so how can you monetize those skills? So I help them to do that.
Mhm. And also knowing, well, 2 things. Knowing that sometimes we might pivot to something short term, but
Yes,
that might not be the long-term thing we
that's
go
right.
to. And when we have greater clarity about what we bring to the table, what we're looking for, less
Yes,
likely you'll transition to another toxic job. I think that's a fear people
absolutely.
have too, that if I leave this job to the devil I know, then I'm gonna go to something else and it's
Yes,
gonna be worse, right? And
right.
the part you said about you said treading water. I think
Yes,
a lot of Black women are treading
yes,
water. They get to the
yes,
point in their lives, they're like, this is not what I worked so hard for. This is not what I
yes,
went to school for. This is
yes.
not it. This cannot be it. And they're treading water, but they just like they're like, okay, I can just stay. They
Let me
said,
just hang in there. Let me just hang in there. Let me just hang
let
in
me
there.
just hang in there.
Yes, yes, yes. And
Mm-mm.
what happens then when you're treading water? Your blood pressure goes up. What happens when you're treading water? You have a stroke. What happens when
And you
you're
can
treading
only do that
water?
for so long because you're going to
Right?
eventually go down.
That's right. That's right. That's
Hmm.
right. There's a lot of things, I'm going to say, weathering that happens with that
Yeah.
treading water, right?
Yeah.
And if we can get to a place and say, you know what? Yeah, this isn't it. How can
Yeah.
I stop that? How can I get to a place where I'm treading water today, but next year this time, or next month this time, or whatever the case might be, that won't be the case. And the funny
Yeah.
thing, when you say short term, when I initially started Career Nomad, I was thinking it was like resumes and, cover letters. And I was like, no, there's something deeper here, right? Because yes, the LinkedIn and the resumes is that,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a whole other, again, human people side to
Mhm,
this work. And
mhm,
that, because I mean, let's be honest, we can pull a resume together, or we can get, the college intern to pull it together if we hate doing that. But if
mhm,
you can't show up, if you can't speak about yourself powerfully, if you
mm,
can't self validate so that as you are talking your way into your next opportunity,
mhm,
then that work is for naught, right? So the
mm,
short term was, it was in doing that work with the resumes and the cover letters. And I thought it was more like process oriented,
mhm,
meaning here's the 2 things you need, let's go.
mhm,
The biggest part of that is the human connection and
mm.
helping them, like you even said yourself, to see them see what they haven't seen in themselves, to
Yeah.
represent themselves differently, to really
Mhm,
sit straight up and flat footed and say, no, these are the things that I'm able to do.
mhm,
Just this week, I was talking to a managing director on my 9 to 5.
mhm,
And he was like, so tell me about yourself, because I had just met him at a volunteer event. So I'm
mhm,
telling him about, all my change management work and blah, 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 blah. And so I said, well, I started out in teaching and then it evolved, right? I career
mhm,
pivoted into
mhm,
consulting.
mhm.
Do you know that gentleman was like, okay, wait, wait, wait. Tell me more about the teaching, because I'm launching a new app and I'm going to need a director of education. But now I didn't go to this man for a job. I'm just like
Wow.
networking. So that's the other thing, right? So wherever your gaps are, you begin to fill in those gaps. At least that's what
Mm.
I have intentionally done with my 5 to 9. Because
Mhm.
in talking about my 5 to 9, one of the things that I initially would be like was that networking and self-promoting and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And I wasn't trying to self-promote because now I built that muscle. Like, this
Mhm.
is what I do. This is what I'm
Mhm.
good at.
Mhm.
These are the areas that I specialize in. You never know what's going to connect, right, with
Mhm.
somebody. That's another
Mhm.
thing I teach them. Like, make sure your game is always tight, because your next
Yeah.
opportunity is in the next conversation, not
It's
on
about who you
LinkedIn,
know.
right? Not on
Yeah.
LinkedIn and not all that other stuff. I'm not saying that you have to become a networking queen, but
Mhm. Mhm.
relationships are what is going to get you to your next
Absolutely.
opportunity.
Absolutely. And Marissa probably talks about this a lot. We talk about this together.
Mhm.
Self-promotion. Why is that so hard for us as Black women?
Because we were taught not to be. You were haughty. You were rude. You were out of
Big-headed.
place. You are to be seen and you are not to be heard. Like,
Right.
oh, I can't stand her. She thinks she all
Ooh.
that stuff. And
Yeah.
there's different versions of that, right? Because there's Black Southern part of that. There's the New York part of that. There's the Jamaican West Indian. Jamaicans say she's too enough. That
Ooh.
type of thing. It's like we were always taught to be small and not take up too much
Mhm.
space.
Mhm.
When I
And
was
be
a kid, they would tell you,
humble.
like, small up yourself, like, get used to being small. Well,
Mm.
baby, that doesn't work in real
No.
life. And it
No.
certainly doesn't work today. And those small people suffer, right? Because you're basically conditioned, again, no knock to how we were raised,
Mhm.
but we
Mhm.
were conditioned to not cause a problem. Just
Yeah.
don't, please just get along. I never forget one of the things my dad was sometimes saying, oh Lord, you gonna fuss about that too? Yes, if it's a problem, And there would be times I'd be like, no, it's okay. No, she doesn't say that anymore. I'm gonna tell you.
Mm. Mhm.
I've gotten better about my
Yeah.
delivery, and I don't know if it's better. Let me take that back. It's
Okay.
better transactionally, depending on who I'm talking to, right? Depending on what the stakes are.
Uh-huh.
Um, you got to know when. You got to know
Yeah.
when. You got to know how, right?
True.
And so I've gotten better at it, because at one point it was like a Uzi. I'm telling everybody what I think, right? Because you go from 0 to 100. Now I'm like 50. And I'm like,
Yeah.
let's keep it at 50, because look, we can, don't let the smooth taste fool you. We can go
Uh-huh.
another way now. Let's
Uh-huh.
get together.
Right. Right. So we talked about one of the barriers to
Yeah.
Black women with self-promotion,
Yeah.
which could even be a problem with side hustles because you have
Yes.
to advertise and put yourself out there,
Oh,
right?
yes. Mm-hmm.
What are some of the other barriers that Black women that you work with have experienced in relation to creating a side hustle?
So a few things. Self-promotion is one of them.
Mhm.
Um, hmm, Self-worth is another, right?
Mm. Ooh.
Feeling worthy, right? Another is
Mm.
not feeling that you have to have all the pieces to go, right? Like, not feeling that if you need 10 things that you can start with 4 and build right from there.
Mhm.
Um so a sense of perfectionism comes into the
Mm.
game, right? Because
Mhm.
again, we've been told you have to work twice as hard to get half as much,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So that comes in. And I would say the other thing is our tolerance for rejection, because
Mm.
a part of your own 5 to 9 is some people be like, oh Lord, here she come again. She talking about coaching, blah, blah. And you have to be like, yes, and or be like, okay, not for you, next, right?
Mhm.
And you have to
Mhm.
adopt some level of that. And so that means that, especially in today's world, some level of social media, that can get kind of weird. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's with networking, face to face.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's with even on the job, right? Because on
Mhm.
the job, you will find that you're doing your 9 to 5, and let's say they know about your 5 to 9, and
Mhm.
so then people are like, oh, she's just doing that because and you have to learn how to navigate uncertain
Mhm.
territory. And
Mhm.
so those are the things that I would say usually come up very often, because for different reasons, whether it's protection or not growing up, because we're
Mhm.
still who we are when we were growing, when we were a kid as a grown
Mhm.
up, right? We are
Mhm.
unlearning those things, or we're modifying or adjusting what we need to
Mhm.
do and be to be successful. And
Mhm.
as you do that, you think, oh, okay, I'm like, okay, I'm good at talking about what I do now, until someone that you think is bigger, better, smarter than you comes into the room, and you're like, ooh. And so
Mhm.
then you got to go in those rooms. You be like, y'all dumb as rocks in here. What was I worried about? Are y'all normal like
Not
everybody?
dumb as rocks.
You know, and I mean, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say devil's advocate. What I'm saying,
That's hilarious.
a story. We've created a story about why we shouldn't be in that room, or why we're not as qualified as everybody else to be in that room. And so being able to take it back to that human level of, I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else that walks into this room or walked into this room. So I deserve to be here. You've got to get comfortable with that. You've got to get also comfortable. Your friends are going to change. Your circle's going to change as you begin to do more things and meet more people and, you know, have new experiences. I'm not going to say you're going to necessarily lose people, but you may.
Well, you might, but you might. Yeah.
You know, you're going to meet more people and work with people that you don't like. Hello. It's not, but again, it's not a personal relationship. It's a business relationship.
Yes,
so how can you show up without masking, without doing self-harm, to be able to, for example, when you go to a doctor, your doctor is not having a personal relationship with you. Your doctor is doing his job. Right. You know, they're assessing you, they're making a diagnosis, and they're giving you medicine. So you almost have to have that level of tolerance to be able to not make rejection personal. But you also have to make it human-centered enough so that you've connected with that person to create that transformation.
Yeah.
So what does that balance look like?
Yeah, but I think what's key in that and being okay with rejection, which is part of business. If your self-worth is shaky, it makes it even harder, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yes.
So is there anything that can be said to Black women in your work with them if you notice that there's like some self-worth issues? How do you address that?
So because, and no pun intended, I'm not a therapist, right? I do an assessment of my own. Is this something that's outside of my own range, right? If it's something that maybe they've been applying for 100 jobs and they haven't gotten, you know, a response, and I take a look at their credentials and their resume, and I talk to them a little bit, and I'm able to surmise that I can make impact, productive impact, that they can take, learn from, and rinse and repeat, then yes. But there have been people that I'm like, you know, I go to therapy. I'm going to suggest that you find a therapist. I can point you to the right resources. So if it's, I pray and I ask for the wisdom to always think not money first, but do no harm.
Yeah.
And so if it's deeper than what, you know, we get a feeling, we get a sense for it.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's something else. That
and you're looking at the whole person. You're not just looking at, I'm just like, if you're not okay, then what I'm teaching you is not even going to really stick.
Exactly. And that acknowledgement of, I understand that this toxic job has begun to not only take an effect on the inside, but harm you. There's things we need to do. There are times that I refer them to an attorney. I was like, you gonna work with me, but you also need an attorney, for example. You know, there are times that they will talk to me. I'm like, you know what? Maybe if you could get a package out of this and you take some time off because you need some space, right? To be able to figure out what your next steps are. And then maybe we can work together. That's how I teach them. That's how I work with people. Because again, if I'm helping to do bad things to someone that has bad things done to them, then I'm a part of the problem and not the solution.
Exactly. And that's really like an ethical way to work as a business owner as well.
Correct.
So Patrice, you are one of our speakers at the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women. So can you give like a high level overview? So if there's any Black women who haven't registered yet, which I don't know why you haven't, but registration information is right there on the screen and in the description section. And let me say this, I didn't say this before, but you are able to sponsor a Black woman. So let's say you want to go to the summit. You're like, girl, my mama, my sister, my friend, she needs to go too. You can sponsor a Black woman as well by emailing me. I'll put my email information on the screen. You can email me, okay? And we can talk about ways that you could sponsor a Black woman. So Patrice, as one of the sponsors, that roster we got, that dynamic roster we got, can you please share with Black women, what is it that you're going to be talking about during the summit?
So in the summit, I'm talking about from passion to paycheck, because one of the things that you and I, and everyone on the call tonight have been talking about is how can we take what we I'm going to say have within, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes that doesn't look like we've done it already. Sometimes it's just that we've dreamed about it, right?
Mhm.
Dreamt, excuse me, about it. But what can you take now from your 9 to 5 or from what some previous experience that you've had? And how can you create a viable, what we at work would call an MVP, a minimum viable product to be able to sell in the marketplace? So it's not always a tangible thing. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's services. Sometimes it is a thing, whether body lotions or Etsy items, or hanging your own shingle, doing whatever it is that you do. But
Mhm.
how can you really take a good look at what you bring to the table, you
Mhm.
bring to your table, and
Mhm.
what can you cherry pick? This is one time when cherry pick is okay, where you can take those things and how can you package them so that you can say, you know what, I know that there's a gap right now and I can serve this. And so what I'm saying is it's okay to niche. It's
Mhm.
okay to be uniquely who you are, providing that there's a gap in the marketplace that is viable that you can sell. So for
Mhm.
example, with my coaching, for example, I teach people how to do blah, 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 blah. Or I
Mhm.
show them how to update their resumes, or I show them
Mhm.
how to network strategically, or I
Mhm.
show them how to look for the latest jobs on LinkedIn. It just depends on what they need because different people need different things. But those are all core attributes that I've had from my own experience as a practitioner in the workplace, from the people that have come to me for help and support. Literally, what are people coming to you for that you love doing or that you
Mhm.
find very easily? And I
Mhm.
also give them the freedom and I remind them that they have the freedom to whatever you're doing right now. This is not the answer forever. This is your way
Mhm.
out the door. So this is
Yeah,
some easy
exit.
cash, exactly, to stack
Yes.
some cash for you to be able to say, wait a minute, while you need that check every 7th and 22nd, we got a little stash over here, right? Because the other part is, a lot of us don't have the 6 months, that we're supposed to have saved. A lot of us
Yeah.
don't have tire blowout money just because
Mhm.
life is lifing and things are so
Mhm.
freaking expensive right now, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But when you are able to transact, uh, I'm going to say a deal or a relationship with someone, and they're willing to say, yes, I'm going to give you X dollars for this service or this product, something on the inside is like, okay, girl,
Yes. It
okay.
motivates you like, "I can keep going. I can take this
And
bigger."
exactly. And so that's
Mhm.
what they're going to learn how to do. And it's, when I say easier, maybe not easier, it's simpler than you think. Right. So, for example, on my job, I hate PowerPoints, I hate Excel, I hate Power BI. That's not my zhuzh. But hey, put me in front of a client, you will have a signed deal. Hello.
Oh, okay.
And I
Okay.
would say, oh, I'm not a salesperson. No, I'm not a salesperson. I'm a relationship girl. But
Mm.
that only came after years and years and years. Like, well, what are the parts of my job that I really like? I like the human connection. I
Mm.
like being able to turn the light bulb on. I like
Mhm.
helping people to identify their gaps. That's
Mhm.
not on anybody's resume. That's
True.
not on anybody's job description. But I
True.
know how to tell you about the impact. Like, I can help you get these clients you can't get. I can help you talk to these Black women that won't listen to you because they don't trust you. I can
Mm.
help you, get these people that have been doing this job for 20 years and they're like, I don't care, I'm going to retire here, do something new. So
Mm.
everyone deserves a career that is
Mhm.
fulfilling and
Mhm.
that's life giving. And when I
Yeah.
say career, that's not just your 9 to 5. I'm talking about doing the work that you love. Because I used to
Mm.
think very transparently, doing things that you love was a white thing.
Ooh.
I did. That's how
Ooh,
I
why'd you
was
think
raised.
that,
Doing
Patrice?
things you don't have time to
'Cause
love.
I've heard Black people say that. Elaborate on that. Why'd you think that? I've
So
heard that.
growing up, right? My mom was like, it starts with things like, I'm not your little friend, right? So it was like, so moms and daughters or moms and children don't have, friendly relationships. I'm always going to be your mother. And I was like, well,
Mhm.
dang, okay. And then the same thing with work. My mom would be like, listen, my mom would say she hated nursing, but it was a check. It was a good check. She
Mm.
could have a job wherever
Mm.
she went. So she was like, I don't have time to hear about what you like because what I
Mm.
hate is what put food on the table.
Oh,
You
survival,
can't
survival.
argue. You can't argue. That's logic,
Mhm.
right? You can't
Mhm.
argue it. Well, two things can be true. You
True.
can do work you love. You can do work that's fulfilling. Now, the other part is you also can't leave because you have obligations.
Mm.
So how can you get to the point that you can do the work you love, or how can
Mhm.
you get your obligations to a point where you're not in a situation where you
Mhm.
have to stay, or whatever the case might be. But how can we create your exit plan? What
Mm.
is your exit plan? Like my
Mhm.
exit plan, I think I told you earlier, I'm 51. My exit plan is to be out of corporate America by 55. But guess it's a lot that needs to happen between here and there. It's a
Right,
lot,
but you got a
right?
goal on the site. Yeah, you got it in mind,
A
right? You
lot.
put it out there. Yes,
Yes. And
yes.
so I'm trying to set myself up. So career nomad's a part of that plan. Some other things are a part of that plan, but I had to put a stake in the ground, like, well, I'm going to start with this because this is what I
Mhm,
have. Because I also
mhm,
knew I couldn't fit one more thing on my plate. I couldn't take one more class. I couldn't get one more
mm.
degree. Hello, student loans, right? We're not doing
Right,
that.
you rack up the degrees, yes.
So I'm like, well, how can I use what I have? That's the other thing they're going to learn, to use what they have so they are not going into enormous amounts of debt. There will be, at
Mm,
least for me, there were obstacles. One of them was like, how can I get scrappy and do it lean? That was
mm,
another reason why I used what I had, right? So
mhm,
that because I didn't have $10,000 to be like, well, I'm hanging my shingle. No, we got that little state of Georgia, LLC thing, one
uh-huh,
paycheck, and then another one, we got a little equipment, and then another one, we did a little membership because I didn't have a nest egg, and I'm just being
yes,
transparent. So how
yes,
can you be scrappy, right? In a way that does not bring detriment,
yes.
those are the types of things we're going to deep dive into.
Wow. Patrice is going to tell you a whole bunch during her session. Okay, so register so you can get this information. Now, Patrice, if there's a Black woman watching this right now and she can relate to what we've been talking about,
Yes.
but she's saying, yeah, this all sounds good, but I'm still
Mhm.
on the fence. I'm still on the fence about coming to the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black
Oh,
women. She's on the fence, but she feels stuck. She doesn't know how to leave. She doesn't know how to make an exit plan. What would you say to her if she's on the fence?
what is it that you want? I would start with a question.
Hmm.
One of the most powerful things is when someone asks you an open-ended question. They don't
True.
lead you. They just put it out there. What do you want?
Mm, mm,
Now she could say nothing, or I got it, or a good job. Let's just say she says a good job.
hmm,
Okay, what is a good job? Tell me more. And she starts to describe the good job.
mhm.
And I'm like, okay. And I would ask, so is your current job a good job? And she
Oh,
probably would
okay.
say, the money's good, or I got friends, or she starts to pick these. And I said, well, tell me what about it. Tell me what about it isn't good. So she
Mm,
is basically the one that's telling me. So then we kind of add all these things up, right? Just kind of lead them along the path, and we drop in the
mhm,
nuggets along the way.
mhm,
And I'm
mhm,
like, okay, so if this is what a good job looks like, and these are the things that's missing, and this is why you want a better job or a different job.
mhm,
What have you tried?
mm,
I'm so busy, I don't have any time. Get it? Because absolutely nobody's going to the Maldives and still working their 9 to 5, right?
mhm,
So I get it. So I'm like, so what are you willing to do to make it happen? Because
mm.
it's going to take more than wishing and praying. No shade to
True,
praying. Like prayer is a
true.
part of it, but
Mhm,
there's some action, right? And
mhm,
in that action, do you have the discipline to really stick to your guns about getting it done? Moving
mhm,
the needle forward in being able to
mhm,
do it. And if you are not, are you setting yourself up for success in the
mm,
way that you're doing it, saying that you're going to put it off to tomorrow, you can do it on your own, or you don't have the
mhm,
money to do it? And
mm.
when they talk about things like that, you literally get them to a place that they literally are looking like they're looking at themselves in a mirror, but they're looking at what they've shared, and they're like, well, dang, like I'm
Why
in
am
my
I
own
not doing
way.
this? Yes.
Exactly. I'm in
Why
my
am I
own
not?
way.
Mhm.
All the things are true. Toxic
Yeah.
job, no support, lack of funds, wanting to live a life well deserved, right?
Mhm.
But how do you move the needle forward? Because the
Mhm.
reality is, until you make up your mind that
Mhm.
this is what I'm doing, even if you don't know the what, but you know that you're doing this thing,
Mhm.
nothing will happen, because that's why you've been talking about it for 5 years, or that's why you've been in this job for
Exactly.
the amount of time you have. So how can we move the
Exactly.
needle forward?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the blockers. What are the things
Mhm.
you're worried about? Well, I won't have a job tomorrow. You didn't get here in one day.
Mm.
For example, have you
Mhm.
ever really looked at what you have to offer and really been in the place where you can hang your shingle, or you
Mhm.
can take the chance to really self promote and talk about
Mhm.
what you do and what you love doing, so that someone would be like, oh, I want some of that. Like I
Mm.
want to learn that, or I want a
Mhm.
piece of that, that sort of thing. Can you be memorable?
Yeah. Yeah.
professionally.
Yeah.
And that's how. So if
Yeah.
you are in that space, because that's not, if I know 10 women, we didn't start there, but we've ended
Mm-hmm.
up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
again, it's the conditioning, it's the way we've grown up, it's the way we've lived in the world, it's the way we still have
Mm-hmm.
to operate, even in
True.
sometimes in the world, to get
Mm-hmm.
home safely. Hello,
Mm-hmm.
police
Mm-hmm.
officer that may stop us
Yes.
on the road that we got to yesterday. Be like, okay, sir, so we can drive home, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, how can we get them to the place where they realize, oh, I'm up? Oh, okay, this is it. Like, okay, so I gotta like roll this conversation the way it needs to roll authentically because I
Mm-hmm.
believe in me. Because we
Mm-hmm.
believe in ourselves because we know we have the degrees, but we die on the vine sometimes because we feel funny or we have difficulty or we feel like we're not
Or
worthy.
we're so fearful, right? We're so
Exactly.
fearful that we won't be able to replace our income that we
That's
just
right.
stay and stay and stay. But
Certainty
what
for
we're
uncertainty.
saying, yeah, but if you keep staying where you are and nothing changes, nothing will change for
That's
you.
right.
And
It's
so
like
the
running in
summit,
place.
oh yeah, it's like running backwards, right?
Yeah, that right.
But but the summit, coming to the summit will teach you the
Yes,
how to get your exit plan together on so
correct.
many different levels about replacing your income, what to do about your health insurance, your retirement, your life insurance,
Your
your
mindset.
your mindset, your
Yes.
sleep, all these different things. You will learn this. Not only will you learn this, you will learn this from Black women, okay, who look like you and who have gone through the experience and they're teaching you. So
Yes.
you're not just coming in like, I don't know what they know what they're talking about. So
Hmm.
that's the benefit of coming to the summit. You may be coming in, maybe feeling defeated, maybe feeling fearful, all those
Yes.
things. You will be leaving there with a plan based
Yes.
upon when you want to go.
That's
So
right.
it's not like you got to leave the next day, but
That's
it's
right.
based upon when you want to go. And sometimes as Black women, we have to invest in ourselves. So, Patrice, you mentioned therapy before.
Yes.
Therapy, coaching, the
Hmm.
summit. So, the
Hmm.
summit is not priced at a point that it's like it's inconceivable,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes.
maybe don't get your eyelash extensions that month or
Yes.
whatever. But
Yes.
whatever that is, this is you investing in yourself. You get a return in your investment.
Hmm.
And and we want you to know that you have options. It's all of us here trying to support you on that summit roster. All of us are trying to support you in liberating yourself. And Marissa and I are on a mission, like we are on a mission to liberate 500 Black women for this summit. Okay. So we are close to 200. I
Yeah.
don't have the exact numbers right now, but close to 200. We want you to join with us to
Yes.
liberate. If you watch my channel, you are part of the liberation community, okay? So as part of the liberation community, we want you to join with us in this goal to liberate 500 Black women this year. It's going to be next
Hmm.
year too. To
Hmm.
liberate 500 Black women, and you can do that by registering,
Yes.
and you can sponsor a Black woman to come, okay? So Patrice, as we're winding down, can
Hmm.
you please share with the audience again about services you offer and how you can be contacted?
Absolutely, absolutely. First and foremost, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Camille.
Yes.
This has been an amazing night. I can be reached by email at hello@patricelindo.com and then across all platforms at The Career Nomad. So those are the easiest ways to get in touch with me. And with regards to the services that I offer, it's coaching. It's coaching on the level of what you need. So coaching in the sense of you're in a job and you want to pivot your career into another role, or you want to pivot your career into a side hustle, or you're trying to figure out just what your next step is going to be. But
Mhm.
what does that look like? What does your branding need to look like? What does your messaging need to look like? What are the gaps that you have that you need to close? Where are you with regards to, you've sent out, applications and you're not getting responses back? How can you set yourself up for success based on what you want to do? I've
Mhm.
worked with people across the spectrum because, especially in this time and in
Mhm.
this post pandemic world, we have to do all, or we feel like, I should say, we don't have to, but we
Mhm.
feel like we need to do all the things. And so, what I provide is a sounding board initially for us to
Mhm.
talk. We start with a 30-minute talk, just kind of like, what are the things that you want to do? And
Mhm.
as we talk through those things, we see where you can fit into one of the programs that I have. And that's how we work together. I have a
Yeah.
90-day program and a 1-day program for us to work together. And people tend to renew the 90-day program. I typically work with people from, I'm going to say 6 months or so, but it's in 90-day increments, because also we have to do things as we can manage them, right? So I want to make sure that we're showing up for them in that way.
I love it. I love it. And I just want to also highlight for everyone that the summit is for Black women, no matter where you are in terms of your career, your
Mm-hmm.
education level, no matter
Mm-hmm.
where you are, no matter if you are starting at, I don't like this job, to,
That's right.
I literally hate this place, to
Mm-hmm.
give me the plan to get out of here. Okay.
That's right.
No matter where, and even if you've already left the job, okay, it is for all of us. And for your privacy, no participants will be seen on camera. Names will not be listed. If there's a question or comment you want to make, you can change your name in the platform, because we know it's Black women. We don't want people in our business. And
Yes.
sometimes these jobs are shady. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So don't make that, that concern keep you from registering. Right.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Patrice, I just want to read our community chat. Okay. So I see a lot of hellos. I see another episode of Lifting and Learning. Let's
Oh.
see. Oh yeah, they like when you said, "What's your next season?" Right? Is this the life I want for myself? This is definitely a key question. So true, so true.
Mm-hmm.
I love to do freelance writing, etc. Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, look at this. You were dropping so much knowledge. She said, "Why is she talking about me?" So you don't need someone else to validate your credentials, like a
Yes.
degree or a certificate. No, you don't.
Yes.
You
Yes.
have to focus on knowing your own worth. Because
Yes.
if you don't, then you're always looking outside of you for
Yes.
people to validate you, and you're giving your power away when you do that. Um,
Agency.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda Seals also said in her Club Shay Shay interview, HR isn't for you, it's for them. That's
Yep.
so true.
It
I
isn't.
learned that. I did a video about how I walked into an ambush at HR. Okay, so
Oh.
my channel, a disaster. It's so hard to find that tribe you need to grow. Yes, so true.
Mm-hmm.
And weathering, yes, my body is rotting away under the pressure.
Oh.
So if anyone's watching this and not familiar with weathering deals with when you go through chronic stress, it
Yes.
causes your organs to age at a faster rate. Okay,
Yes.
so be
Yes.
mindful of that. Sending wishes for healing support. Yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Yes, Patrice is the featured speaker. Absolutely. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Marissa. OMG, I made it back in time. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you joined. That's great. You can watch the replay if you were late. That's good. Great
Yes.
advice. I'm learning ways to help myself. Do no harm, right? It's going to be amazing. Yes, the summit is going to be amazing. It's going to be fire. It's going to be fire. It's going to be
Yes.
life changing. Okay.
It is.
Patrice is knowledgeable. Yes, she is. Yes. Okay, girl. So she just registered for the summit. I love you. High five to you.
Yes.
High five to you.
Yes.
Me too. High five to you too. Work you love exists. Fact. It does exist. It
Yes.
does exist,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I needed this. I feel so stuck. My exit plan is not doing what it needs to do yet. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel an exit plan B. Please come to the summit.
Yes.
Please come to the summit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, it's not frivolous to build a life you love. It's your
Mm-hmm.
right. That is
Right.
so true,
Oh,
Marissa. That is so true. I honestly don't know what I have. I have my notebook ready, girl. They ready for you, girl. They
I
ready
love
for you
it.
at the summit. Okay. That's my question. I don't know what I want. Patrice, getting folks back on track. Yes. Oh, girl, listen to this. Patrice is on fire. I needed her powerful gems. Boom.
Oh,
Okay. And come
good.
to the summit. You're gonna see she gonna be and
More,
man,
deeper
she gonna
and more.
girl, okay?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Man, I missed the first hour. We'll watch it, the replay. Excellent, excellent. I shared this episode on my Facebook. Excellent. Hope some sisters will join us today and for the summit. Thank you so much for doing that, right? So
Yes.
again, that's an example. As part of this community, we are working together. It's our collective
Yes.
goal,
Right.
all of us, that we're trying to liberate 500 Black women this year, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Patrice is in here teaching. This is perfect for me because I started learning to teach online as a side hustle. Excellent. I left my
Mm-hmm.
job November 2023.
Woo!
Okay, ladies,
Liberation.
liberation is here.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and for all of you who've already registered, congratulations, because you're making your courageous steps towards liberating yourself and replacing your income. You're not just up and leaving like, oh, I hope things turn
Yes.
out. No. Okay. You're coming up with a plan. So
Yes.
again, if you haven't already registered for the Job Liberation Virtual Summit, May 18th and 19th, please do that. Share this information with other Black women. Share this video with at least 2 Black women. If you
Yes.
want to sponsor a Black woman to also go to the summit, email me and we can make it happen.
That's right.
And as I said before, I'm so thankful. Thank you, everyone, for me getting to 5,000 subscribers on
Yes.
YouTube.
Congrats.
And I just want to also add, and I never say this, I need to keep saying this, turn the notification bell so you know when I go on live or record another video. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So just be aware of that. And as I've been working with Marissa to develop the summit, you may notice I'm coming out with a lot of videos. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm doing that is because as I'm working on the summit, like all the stuff has been downloaded to me. But another thing is it's triggering up a lot of my memories of being in a toxic job, right? So I'm getting all this toxicity out of my system. And it's a way
Mm-hmm.
that I'm healing by doing that is that I'm talking about it, sharing about my experiences because you may relate to that. And
Yes.
you may be able to say, right? And I have no shame
That's
in
right.
sharing what my mistakes were because my hope is that you will learn from those things. And I
Yes.
want to be able to talk about these things openly and
Mm-hmm.
release the shame that I've had because I've had shame about this.
Yeah.
I'm releasing the shame. That's why you're going to see these videos because I'm releasing the shame because I have not done anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I want to model that for you too. So,
Mm-hmm.
Patrice, any
Yeah.
last words before we sign off for today?
Oh my goodness. You deserve. You deserve. And you have to remind that. At least I do. I look in
Yes.
the mirror. I keep a mirror on my desk. You know, I have it on my phone. Whatever your own little self hug is, your own little self trust, your own little reminder is, find one if you don't have
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Because if it were for your nieces, nephews, daughters, husbands, wives, whatever the case might be, we know how to affirm other people. We're not as
Yeah.
great for ourselves. At least I'm not. And so I start with you deserve. And
You deserve.
everyone within the sound of our voices, within our communities, within the world that look like us deserve. And
Mhm.
whatever it takes for us to do it. With you, Dr. Kamani, it's 500 women. With me, it's the people that I work with all of us on this call. Can you imagine if each of us said, we are going to impact the lives of even 10 women, what this would look like? So
So
you deserve.
powerful.
You
And
deserve.
we all have agency, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
So
yes.
everyone, please give this video a thumbs up as well. Share this video with 2 other Black women. Subscribe to my channel and turn the notification bell. Okay. Remember, you deserve. That's what
Yes,
Patrice said. You deserve. Remember that. Okay.
yes,
So
yes, yes.
I'll see you next time and have a good evening. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.